If you're hoping to buy or sell a home before the end of the year, now is the time to get started if you haven't already. Let's talk about that and more in this week's segment of Market Watch. Hi everyone, it's Joshua Barks here, associate broker and real estate wizard at Keller Williams Realty Boise and team lead of the Barks & Co. real estate team. Thank you for tuning into this week's segment of Market Watch. If you're new to the channel, we talk about the housing market on a week-over-week basis for the Boise area specifically, and we also have some tips and tricks in there as well on when to buy, when to sell, and things like that also. So, without further ado, let's dive right into these numbers, shall we? Inventory is first, as always, and inventory actually declined. For the fourth week in a row, we have fewer overall inventory than we had the week prior. So we had 893 active listings last week. This week, we only have 847 active listings. Now, the number of new listings coming to market also declined for the fourth week in a row. We had 159 new listings hit the market last week. This week, we had 145 new listings hit the market. Now, the interesting part with inventory is with demand, we are still seeing more homes get snatched off the market than are coming to market. So our demand is still outpacing our supply, which is very interesting, especially because our overall demand is also on a decline for its fourth week in a row. We had 844 pending overall last week. This week we have 783 pending overall. Now, when we look at the homes that went under contract in just the last 7 days, we had 194 go under contract or come off the market last week, when we only had 159 come on the market. So 194 went off, 159 came on. Then this week, we had 181 come off the market with 145 coming on. So still way more than what we're experiencing for new listings coming on the market and homes being bought up by somebody. Then when we dive into the number of homes sold, the actual closings that we've experienced in the last 7 days, this week is actually in the top 5 weeks of all time for this year. We had 225 homes sold in the last 7 days compared to last week when we had 210. So yes, we have more listings closing this last week than we saw all month. And also in the top 5, it's tied for number 3 for the whole year, with the highest being 242 homes sold at the end of August. And as I predicted, we do typically see the number of closings in a given week be the highest on the last week or the first week of the month. So that's what we experienced this week. We saw a number of closings as people rush to get their homes sold, actually closed and can move in over the holiday weekend. So that's really exciting there. Now, with inventory and demand overall on a decline, it's really interesting because it looks like, since this is the fourth week in a row, that we're experiencing a trend. We can now say that that's a possible trend going into our holiday market. Now, what we typically see during the holiday season is a slowdown overall. So we see fewer listings on the market, fewer buyers out there, and fewer sales taking place. Now, last year, you'll probably remember, in December, we had 89 active listings in the entire county, which is ridiculously low. It had never been that low previously. In fact, that is still the record for the lowest inventory that we've seen in all of Ada County active at one time. Now, we are likely going to see inventory to continue to decline as we get into the closer to the holiday season. And we'll likely see the number of pendings probably stay around the same, and peter downward as well, because we're still up significantly from what we saw this time of year in 2019. When we're talking about the number of inventory coming down, I highly doubt we're going to see 89 active listings in December this year. That's just not realistic for what we're seeing in the market right now and what numbers are taking place. In fact, I would have to, if you wanted an actual prediction and a guesstimate, and it's just a guesstimate because anybody could say, I would guess we're probably going to see active listings in our December month to be around 600. So give or take probably 100 active listings. But that's likely what we're going to see for the number of active listings, just because that's what we typically see that time of year, is we see the lowest inventory all year during our holiday season, holiday months, which is December, January, sometimes November too, sometimes February too, depending on how our winter goes. But what it looks like now is that people are, starting to take a pause and focus on the holidays, especially because this year for the holiday season, people are finally able to get back together and be with their families if they weren't able to do that last year. And I know a lot of people weren't. So I know a lot of people are very excited for the upcoming holiday season, and that is likely going to be distracting them into the holiday season this year. So with that being said, I didn't talk about interest rates yet. So interest rates, as predicted, went up again this week. We actually have, according to Freddie Mac's research, the average 30-year fixed for nationally is a 3.14%. So that's up from last week's 3.09%. And of course, that is the, I think, fourth week in a row that we've seen interest rates come up as well. And they're expected to continue to rise all the way through the end of the year. So don't be surprised if we end up with maybe 3.25 by the end of the year, or maybe even higher than that. Previously, at the beginning of the year, if you were here for that, or if you check out my earlier prediction, you'll see that I predicted interest rates by the end of the year to be around 3.5. Now, I don't know if it'll be that aggressive by the end of the year, because they're rising very modestly right now, and they're expected to continue to rise at a modest pace. So we'll likely see something closer to 3.25-ish by the end of the year. And of course, when it comes to interest rates, I'm not a lender, so they study those markets more and know more than me on the behind the scenes with that kind of stuff. If you're planning on buying or selling a home, though, and you want to move in by the end of the year, if you haven't started already, now is the time to get a plan in place and meet with a real estate professional you trust. I'd love to be interviewed as well, but meet with somebody now. And even if you're not planning on moving in by the end of the year, say you want to move in after the holidays, you're planning on getting something or selling something right after the holidays, everything's over there. Right now is the time that you want to get prepared for that, because everything in real estate, your typical closing time frame is going to be about 30 days from an accepted contract. So if you're a buyer, you want to figure out what you're looking for, get pre-approved if you're financing, and find that house and get under contract, which can take, you can get it really done really quickly. Maybe it's a week it takes you, or maybe it's even a couple days. But some people, it takes a couple weeks to find something. But once you find something, then the 30 days after that, you're typically able to move in. And so coming up on that, we're likely going to see, fewer inventory, and as we get closer to that end of the year, things might take longer as well to find stuff, because there's fewer options. And then as a seller, if you're planning on moving before the holidays, same thing. There's a lot that goes into making sure your home is prepared and ready to go for the market, so it just outshines the competition. And I love getting homes ready to do that. And it's one of my passions, is to really take a place that's almost ready to go, or maybe it's not ready at all, and just do all the work to make it shine, because that's what nets my sellers the most money, especially in the second hottest sellers market we've seen for our area. It's so important to do that, and then pricing correctly and navigating those multiple offer situations. So crucial for our market. If you're thinking about selling, you want to prep, make sure the house is clean and staged if you're not going to be living there, or maybe it's a partial stage with that, and then have fantastic photos, ideally before the snow hits the ground. So even if you're not listing your home on the market until, say, the first week of December, or even say in January, you're planning on listing your home in January, now is the time you probably want to get those photos done for the outside, when your yard is looking much better than when there's snow all over the ground. So that's kind of some key tips there. If you're thinking about selling soon or buying soon, now is the time to be meeting with a real estate agent, so you can figure it out and really make it happen. So that's kind of what I have for buying and selling by the end of the year, if that was your goal, please reach out to me. My number is 208-914-1095, or feel free to visit my website. You can book me directly on my website at www.barksrealestate.com. And our services page. You can say, oh, I'm a buyer, and click on that, and then set up a meeting and put it right on my calendar. You get to choose a time and everything, and you don't even have to talk to me. It just automatically puts it on the calendar, and then we go to work from there. Same if you're a seller, it automatically puts it on my calendar, and we go to work from there. So that's what I have for you this weekend. If you are out there for trick-or-treating, I also, as part of my email this week, I'm put together a link to all of the haunted houses, corn mazes, and some of the most fun decorated homes in Boise. So that'll be really fun to check out. I'll put the link to that in the description as well. If you want to sign up for future email updates, the link for that is also going to be in the description. And it's really fun because it's the community here in our Boise area has been putting it together. And so they go around and say, oh, this is a really cool house, add it to the list. And then people are just collaborating and saying, here's a list of really cool open house, or not open houses, homes that are decorated for Halloween and are fun to check out. And that's all over the area: Nampa, Caldwell, Boise, Meridian, Eagle, Star, and it's all over the area, and it's really neat to see the community come together and do that. So I'll include the link to that in the description below. And then of course it's also in my email if you get that every week. So without further ado, that's what we have for this week. Inventory coming down, demand coming down, number of sales coming up. Next week, we're likely to see inventory either come down or kind of stay the same. That's my prediction. Same with the number of pending sales. We're likely going to see that either increase or stay about the same is my guess. So we'll see what happens next week. And I hope everyone has a fantastic Halloween. One of my favorite holidays of the year, maybe actually my favorite. So enjoy the Halloween weekend we're having, and I will see you next week for Market Watch.